인지날이야 Kashag tamshe di nyendo shu chowachi kasan di geju nal tab gu yobe sonzan tuzu chembu chimba ine so naro chisin shuayi. Tani on today's Democracy Day celebration we have chief guests and guests from the Estonian Parliament. Yuko has been here this April along with Roy, who is also the president of the Tibet support group in Estonia, but this time you also have Carmen and Esther. We also have the president of the Tibet support group from Finland area. Thank you very much for your presence. And within 4 months, you decided to come here 2 times. And last night, we also discussed about coming next year. So this itself is a manifestation of a very strong support from the Estonian Parliament, people who have endured the same suffering that we are enduring right now under China, and they have suffered the same under Soviet Union. And that is why their affinity for the Tibetan cause is much more than many other countries and leaders around the world. So thank you very much for coming here again and showing your support. And I was telling Yuko this morning that every time we have visitors here, it does send a strong message to the people inside Tibet and also to the Chinese government that there is support from the international community and there are people who are willing to listen to us. So thank you again. Today, we celebrate the 64th anniversary of the Tibetan Democracy Day. On this joyous occasion, the Kashag extends his warm greeting to the delegation of the Estonian Parliamentary Support Group for Tibet, led by its chairman, Honorable Mr. Yuko Kale-Raid. Member of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Estonian Parliament, Honorable Mrs. Carmen Yola, Member of Social Affairs Committee, and Honorable Ms. Esther Karusi, Member of Foreign Affairs Committee, and Mr. Roy Strider, who kindly coordinated the visit, and present and former officials of the Central Tibetan Administration, as well as fellow Tibetans living in and outside Tibet. The Kashag extends our warm greeting to all across the world who support the just cause of Tibet and the people of Tibet. Under the visionary leadership and indomitable determination of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Tibetan people remained resilient, unfazed by the overwhelming hardship of losing their homeland to invaders and the multifarious challenges in a new environment. Within a week of His Holiness' arrival in Mussoorie in India on 20th April 1959, His Holiness re-established the Tibetan government in exile, aimed at resolving the issue of Tibet and ensuring the welfare and overall development of the Tibetan community in exile. Moreover, in conformity with the modern democratic system, His Holiness the Dalai Lama established the Legislative Assembly in 1960 to ensure democratic representation through the electoral system. Since then, His Holiness has initiated 4 historical steps towards the democratization process, thus developing the Tibetan polity into an efficient and robust system which is unprecedented in the exile community and a model for the entire world. Also, the fact that the Tibetans in exile are freely enjoying the fruits of democracy resulted solely from the blessings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's unwavering guidance and leadership, for which we always remain eternally grateful. The Kashag, in a statement on the occasion of His Holiness' birthday this year, highlighted His Holiness' first of the 4 principal commitments aimed at promoting human values. This serves as a curtain raiser to celebrate His Holiness' 90th birthday next year. On this occasion, we would like to briefly recall His Holiness the Dalai Lama's second commitment of promoting religious harmony. His Holiness the Dalai Lama emphasizes that different religious traditions share common principles such as love, compassion, patience, contentment, and observing moral precepts in taming the mind, which provides a basis for harmony between religions, and that all philosophical religious traditions in the world underscore the need to practice love and compassion. The main teachings of the major religions is nonviolence. Nonviolence is love and compassion. The obstacle to practicing love and compassion is anger. The antidote is practicing patience and not holding animosity against those who harm us. These principles are common across religions. Different philosophical views are necessary due to differences in human temperaments and inclinations. Furthermore, His Holiness emphasizes that if all the world's religions understand each other's perspectives through sincere and disciplined dialogue, harmony can be achieved. His Holiness strongly emphasizes that while maintaining one's own philosophical views and rituals, religious practitioners and followers should develop a sense of oneness of humanity and respect other religions as well as those who don't believe in religion. During His Holiness the Dalai Lama's visit to the sacred land of India on the 2500th anniversary of Lord Buddha's enlightenment in 1956, His Holiness observed that India is not only where Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism, and Buddhism originated, it is also one of the world's most Muslim-populated nation, where Judaism and Christianity spread and Zoroastrianism found a second refuge. During his stay of over 3 months in India, His Holiness witnessed the tradition of harmonious coexistence of different religions, which has remained vibrant in this free and democratic nation since the reign of Emperor Ashoka. These observations convinced His Holiness the Dalai Lama that different religions, which uphold universal human values such as compassion, love, and nonviolence, should and can work together in harmony. In conformity with the successive Dalai Lamas receiving empowerments, transmissions, and instructions from various traditions of Tibetan Buddhism, His Holiness the 40th Dalai Lama has received initiations, instructions, and oral transmission from many great masters of different traditions of Tibetan Buddhism. As reflected in the records of the teachings received, the textual tradition of Tibetan Buddhism in general and the initiations, instructions, and oral transmissions have become the repository of great oral lineage of pith instructions. Presiding over 12 of the 14 Tibetan religious conferences held since 1963, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has emphasized on the importance of non-sectarianism, opening a new chapter of harmony among major schools of Tibetan Buddhism in exile. In his efforts to promote religious harmony among the world's religions, His Holiness the Dalai Lama met with Sri Lanka's spiritual leader Bande Guru Gunaratna in 1956. Thereafter, in 1967, His Holiness met with Venerable Smodek Phra Sangaraja, the Supreme Patriarch of Thailand. His Holiness has held regular meetings and interactions with the foremost proponents of Pali tradition, such as Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, a religious leader of Vietnam, Venerable Phra Maha Ghosananda, the Supreme Patriarch of Cambodian Buddhism. These interactions have helped promote understanding and harmony within Buddhist traditions. Furthermore, under the guidance of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in an effort to foster dialogues on understanding monastic rules and developing an understanding of the different cultures and traditions, a 5-year Pali and Sanskrit International Bhikkhu Exchange Program was launched in 2022. Likewise, the first International Sangha Forum held in Bodh Gaya in 2023 brought together over 2,000 monks following the Pali traditions of Southeast and South Asian countries of India, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and those of the Sanskrit tradition from Bhutan, Nepal, Vietnam, China, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, Russia, Mongolia, including Tibet, and other parts of the world. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in his key address at the opening ceremony of the forum, emphasized the importance of fostering dialogue on monastic rules and the role of Buddhism in the 21st century. Starting with his international visits to Europe and North America from 1970s, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has emphasized universal responsibility. His Holiness has visited over 60 countries nearly 300 times, including visits to the Vatican, the Washington National Cathedral, Westminster Abbey at London, St. John the Divine Cathedral in New York, as well as Jerusalem, a holy site for Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, the Hindu Kumbh Mela, the Jama Masjid in Delhi, and many other religious sites and temples in cities and towns. During these visits, His Holiness has left an indelible imprint of his universal message and met with numerous renowned leaders of different faiths. Similarly, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has also participated in many interfaith dialogue and harmony conferences, such as the World Day of Prayer for Peace in the sacred land of Assisi, Italy, organized by His Holiness Pope John Paul II in 1986, the Parliament of the World Religions in 1993, various international religious conferences in India, the Interfaith Dialogue and Need for Religious Tolerance in San Francisco in 2006, the Terrorism National and International World Conference in India in 2008, the World's Religions Dialogue and Symphony Conference in 2009, and the World Peace Summit in Hiroshima, Japan in 2010. At these conferences, His Holiness has consistently called for harmony among the religious faiths to promote human values and contribute to world peace. Furthermore, His Holiness the Dalai Lama urged religious organizations to pay attention to environmental protection at the 2009 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen. In 2015, under His Holiness' guidance, Buddhist leaders worldwide issued their first joint statement calling for action on climate change. In 2017, His Holiness attended the World Peace and Harmony through Interfaith Dialogue conference with various religious leaders in India. Likewise, in 2019, the 15th Youth Interfaith Pilgrimage and Dialogue Conference was held in Bangalore, organized by the Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Many similar meetings have been held under the guidance and support of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Besides that, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has authored over 100 books in English, which have been widely read and translated in many major world languages, which includes Good Heart, a Buddhist perspective on the teaching of Jesus, 1996, The Art of Happiness, 1998, Ethics for the New Millennium, 1999, The Universe in a Single Atom, The Convergence of Science and Spirituality, 2005, Towards a True Kinship of Faiths, How the World's Religions Can Come Together, 2010, and Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World, 2011. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in his public talks, discussions, and interviews, has emphasized the importance of promotion of human values, world peace, and environmental protection through interfaith dialogue and harmony. These have been viewed, listened to, and disseminated widely by most major global media organizations. His Holiness the Dalai Lama's visionary guidance on the importance of the need for ethics mental well-being, and universal responsibility in the modern education system is being incorporated into the educational curriculum and implemented by many governmental and non-governmental organizations around the world. Some of these major organizations include UNESCO's Intercultural Dialogue Project, the Parliament of the World's Religions Interfaith Dialogue Initiatives, the Peacemakers in Action Network's effort to leverage religious leaders for peace building, Religions for Peace, interfaith dialogue and collaboration activities, the Mind and Life Institute's dialogue between science and Buddhism, the World Peace Council's peace promotion campaigns, global ethics promotion initiatives of the Global Ethics Foundation, and the primary and middle school teacher training program under National Council of Educational Research and Training of India. Many academic institutions, such as Emory University, University of Wisconsin, Madison, Stanford University, University of Virginia, University of Southern California, U.S. primary and secondary schools under the California Department of Education, the Dalai Lama Center for Interfaith Understanding at the University of Cambridge, UK, Griffith University, Australia, University of Tübingen, Germany, Sophia University, Japan, McGill University, Canada, and the University of Delhi have also incorporated His Holiness' visions in their curriculum. The Mind and Life Institute, neuroscience research and discussion of ethics evolved from the principal commitments of His Holiness the Dalai Lama are continuously progressing and expanding is yet another contribution to the humankind. His Holiness the Dalai Lama's concept of interfaith dialogue finds reflections in the United Nations General Assembly's resolution on the World Day for Cultural Diversity, for Dialogue and Development, and on promotion of interreligious and intercultural dialogue, understanding and cooperation for peace, and the United Nations Human Rights Council's resolution on combating intolerance, negative stereotyping, stigmatization, discrimination, incitement to violence, and violence against person based on religion or belief. These resolutions reflect many of the principles of interfaith dialogue that His Holiness has long espoused and advocated. On the contrary, the government of People's Republic of China is implementing hardline policies aimed at eradicating the distinct Tibetan identity in Tibet. This is a blatant violation of common aspirations of humanity for religious harmony, promotion of ethics and world peace, which has been consistently reported by independent research organizations such as Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, as well as by the delegation of the EU's European External Action Service on their visit to Tibetan areas in June this year. The US State Department's annual Human Rights Report and various UN experts' report. On 5th August this year, the American Bar Association passed a resolution on Tibet, stating the American Bar Association urges the United States Department of State, offices of global criminal justice to investigate and publish updated findings on the question of genocide, crimes against humanity, and other human rights violations in Tibet. Additionally, the PRC government is forcefully implementing an assimilationist policy called Forging a Strong Sense of Community for the Chinese Nation, through a three-pronged process termed as to facilitate ethnic exchanges, communication, and integration, aimed at eradicating the Tibetan people's identity through indoctrination programs and Sinicization campaigns in the religious, political, and social programs. As part of this policy to eradicate anything Tibetan, the Chinese authorities are distorting Tibetan history, erasing Tibetan national identity, and forcibly changing the way of life destroying architectural buildings, designs, and the artwork of Tibetan characteristics. Over 1 million Tibetan children are forced into state-run colonial boarding schools to learn Chinese language and ideology without access to their families. Books related to Tibetan nationality, religion, and histories are being forcibly removed from the libraries of these schools. And pictures and statues of historical figures such as Tumis Sambodha, who created the Tibetan script, and other ancient and modern scholars in the Tibetan campuses are being wiped out. Such alarming reports continue to emerge from Tibet. In June this year, hundreds of Tibetan young monks were forcibly evicted from Kirti Monastery in Ngaba area of Amdo to force them into draconian colonial-style boarding schools. Moreover, the 19th century Atok Monastery was completely razed to the ground on date. On the 12th July, the Ragyak Hangri Nobu Educational Institute, which accommodates over 1,000 Tibetan students, was forcibly shut down, causing great distress to the school's teachers and students. These appalling incidents clearly shows that the PRC government, in contrary to their propaganda of the proclaimed progressive steps of human society towards democracy, freedom, justice, equality, and harmony, is regressing or digressing into the dark age of brutal colonialism. In support of the aspirations of the Tibetan people, US President Joe Biden signed the promoting a resolution to this Tibet-China Dispute Act on 12th July this year. The act highlights that the current policies of the People's Republic of China are systematically suppressing the ability of Tibetans to preserve their religion, culture, language, history, way of life, and environment. The Kashag mentioned in its statement on His Holiness the Dalai Lama's 89th birthday that the act recognizes the US government's position on historical status of Tibet, that the Sino-Tibet dispute is unresolved, and that it is the official policy of the US government to promote a negotiated solution to the dispute through dialogue. The Kashag would also want to acknowledge the unanimous resolution passed by the Canadian Parliament on 10th June this year. This resolution asserts that the Tibetan people and their country have the right to self-determination and are empowered to freely choose their economic, social, cultural, and religious policies without any interference from any external power. The resolution also condemned the Chinese government's systematic policy implementation of cultural assimilation against Tibetans. The aspiration of the Tibetan people to preserve our national identity and to develop our own culture cannot be crushed by any form of brute force. More so, it is the important responsibility of Tibetans living in free countries to make every effort so that the Chinese government corrects and ends its misguided and repressive policies in Tibet. Hence, the Kashag urges every Tibetan to make collective efforts in unity. While we celebrate the Tibetan Democracy Day, we must also acknowledge that there is still considerable scope for improving our democratic system. In particular, it is the need of the hour to strengthen completion and effectiveness of the laws and regulations that ensure fairness and justice for all. In conclusion, we pray that the light of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's vision and meritorious accomplishments continue to shine across the world, and may all His Holiness' wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. May the truth of Tibet prevail. Thank you very much.